defeating Siraj Uddawla in Bengal. So when British came into power, it is not completely British government coming into power. It is East India Company. There is actually difference between East India Company and government. East India Company is completely a private company. It sought permission, its permission from British government to just do their business over here in India. It was actually a registered company, just like any other registered company. But whereas when they came to India, they wanted to gain certain power at certain places, various places. And when they got power over Bengal during the war of Plassey, after Plassey war, when they came into power in Bengal, they started identifying not only just business, they felt that it was their responsibility to govern that place. Now, while they are actually receiving the tax collections and everything, they felt that it is our responsibility to just administer this place and govern this place. And we have to impose, we have to get some military and we have to put some other rules like other than Hindu law, other than Muslim law, and we have to bring forth some other law according to uh, like which one is really good to these people. They felt so and they brought some laws. And see, between the period 1770 and 1820, they discovered it. And we require certain army, police force to control these people and medical and educational necessities they identified. They cannot bring every person who is actually supporting British people back from London. So it has become difficult. They need human resources, which are there plenty in India. They wanted to make these people, as their assistants to just continue that governance. So there was a great need to educate these people. With it is not about English language completely at that time. At that time, they just identified it is necessary to just educate these people. And in addition to that, there is a huge gap of communication between administrators and the people, because administrators, British people, they are actually engaging in English language exchange. They are exchanging English language, and whereas the natives actually they are exchanging in their native language. There is a huge communication gap between these two. But whereas the rulers and ruled, if they had the ruled, both of them, they have the common thing, a common string, it would be quite easy for the people to rule or to be ruled. So they felt that English at least would act as a kind of line to just walk all of us on one path. They thought that, and later, and we all know that in last year in paper 3, we knew that Macaulay, Thomas Babington Macaulay, he came up over here and he sold his lies to the whole world, stating that look at 1.2 English education in India, page number 2. Lord Macaulay, who is a distinguished scholar and statesman, he just wrote of the infamous Macaulay Minute, stating that the whole literature work of India is not even equal to the a single shelf of any library in England, back in England. So actually, uh, we also took that as, but whereas not true, really, he did not have clean idea about it, and he was also inspired by the book written by James Mill in just a moment. James Mill, James Mill's book, 1817, which was published in 1817, History of British India. Before coming to India, Thomas Babington Macaulay, he read that book with that influence, and it was actually utterly, denigrating Indians and everything. We also denigrated ourselves to say, uh, and the famous minute is suggesting that. Now we must at present look at the statement which is there in page number 2. It is very, very important one. Even if you put this one in the examination, I think probably that would be quite enough. We must at present do our to form a class who may be interpreters between us and the millions whom we govern. Class of persons in blood and earth, but English in taste, in opinions, in morals, and in intellect. So their DNA should be, or color and blood should be Indian, whereas their taste, opinions, morals, and intellect should be in English. And he also thought that if we train certain higher class people, only one class people, not everybody, he just addressed only the higher elite class. If we train elite people, and then they will have the responsibility to train the next level class people. He thought so, and it was in the minute. And the minute also stressed that English books are available at low cost, whereas if you want to publish any book like in Arabic or Persian, the cost is a little bit comparatively a bit costlier than English books. So with these things, English language, the advent of English became very easy, and this is one thing. This is one. Look at that page number 3, and therefore the devices with this Macaulay minute, when it came into force, it created certain systems like creating hierarchies in the society. That means white rulers versus brown ruled. We Indians are brown ruled, and next forming power relations like those who know English versus those who don't. And even at this point, you remember this point, underline this point, point 2, power relations, those who know English versus those who don't. Look next one, third point. Developing instruments of power as administrative and judicial laws being written in English. Then it started coming every other thing. By 1858, we got a Government of India Act, right? And before that, it happened just not long before, just 20 to 30 years before. These people, they started actually educating certain elite class people in English. And Macaulay also thought at that time these elite class people would train the others. Whereas, look at the second point, those who know English versus those who don't. These people, they felt they are quite superior to everybody else. Especially those who do not know English language, they were treated and those were not really rich enough, they were quite goes to the veterinary inspector because they can communicate with them in language and in English language. That's how it started. It started. Later again, we knew that Wood's dispatch came into force in 1854. When it came into force, then they said vernacular language is necessary because these elite class people. Hello? Can
Oh, no, sir.
No, where did I was connected? Please tell me some point. I'll connect from. Okay. Have you got the point? Like the elite did not the class of the people, the lower class of the people. It's very simple that Macaulay brought that Macaulay minutes English language education. Hello, can you hear me?
Not clear, sir.
Yes, now, can you hear me? There is a break in the signal.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir. Clear, sir.
right. Okay. So, oh, these people, they did not train the lower class people. They thought that if we train them, there would not be any difference between us, the rich section, and the poor section. And they again, there is British people actually colonizing the whole India. In addition to that, even these rich people within the society, in the name of caste or a class or creed, they are also showing a kind of discrimination, not educating the others. So later, actually, we all know that Wood's dispatch in 1854, when it came into force, and it also suggested that vernacular languages also should be taught. And people, at the initial days, just like we have a national education policy in 2020 right now, the first 5 years of education should be in the vernacular language, which is actually mother tongue or something. Just like that he proposed at that time, then education started coming into force a little bit better. And it was not, of course, not implemented properly. Later in 1882 or 84, when Hunter Commission came up, it started actually coming into force. That's how actually English education came into India. The process started in 1835, but whereas, when it comes to take a kind of whole beautiful shape, it became till 1884. But whereas between this time, English education has actually given to the people something else. That is one. That is the books of English language are available at low cost. In addition to that, there are many local libraries, and which are actually actively lending the people the books and everything. And people actually, the social people, elite people, they started reading and they started gaining certain ideas like nationalism, identity, individual identity, and equality, and the necessity of independence. These things they got to know, they got to understand from English books. Just like, you see how French Revolution came up by reading the text of like Rights of Man from Tom Paine. Just like that, we have certain writers in English in India, those who wrote in English, those who understood, especially coming to Raja Ram Mohan Rai. He actually wanted to abolish certain superstitions, extremely bad superstitions, which were there in India at that time. Just like Sudama mentioned in the previous class, like Sati, he wanted to abolish all these superstitions from the brains of Indians. So he wanted English language is the only thing. He believed that one English language is the only thing which can eradicate that kind of thought from the people mind. And he became a kind of proponent, extremely great proponent of English language in India. And uh, language becomes a symbol of rational modernity, scientific temper, and systematic work. He wanted every Indian to get access to the science and other things, whatever that are there with English, with the Western countries. He wanted all the Indians to have them, so that they get educated. Their brains would just elaborate a kind of like widen their thoughts. That's it. He wanted everybody to have that one. That is his idea. And later we have so many writers, and everybody started reading Shakespeare, Milton, John Keats, and P.B. Shelley. Everybody started reading all these texts, and they got to know certain ideas. Oh, this is the thing, this is the thing. If you see late 19th century, this is actually the language which British people gave Indians. That may be also a cause for Bengal Renaissance. Like the people who are being ruled, they actually uh, started actually going against the rulers using their own weapon, English language. Like people like Henry Derozio, page number 4. Look at that. Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Michael Madhusudan Dutt, right? English radicals, just like Tom Paine. I told you just a few moments ago, just like Tom Paine, they also become a proponents of, supporters, great supporters of nationalism or something. They wanted to bring people into a kind of on one rope, or they wanted to give people certain education, like this is important or something. Next, they developed a fascination for English literature, sought to imitate the English poetic tradition, right? For example, Michael Madhusudan Dutt, Meghanada Badakavya, inspired by Milton Paradise Lost. And early days, if you just observe, even Sarojini Naidu, which we have in certain unit, like unit 9, she was also, she received, let me tell you about Sarojini Naidu. She received education in Madras province, and later she went to London to in a couple of college. One is actually King's College, and another one college from Cambridge. She received her education over there, using Nizam's scholarship, and she had her education in Hyderabad. She was born in Hyderabad, right? If you just look at the poem also, in the Bazaars of Hyderabad, written by Sarojini Naidu, what do you sell, O ye merchants? Richly your ways are displayed. Like, um, if you even if you just look at that one, she wanted to propose, she wanted to showcase the world how beautiful India is. These people actually, uh, they started showcasing India's greatness when Macaulay disregarded the whole system of India and whole literature of English, and these people, they started actually showing and what India is, how beautiful it is, how rich its culture is. And first of all, initially when they started their writing, just like Madhusudan Dutt's Meghanada Babu Kavya, it was inspired by Milton's Paradise Lost. Many people who started writing directly in English, they were influenced by British writings. Initially, they looked like a kind of copy books, the style and everything. Whereas slowly, they consumed, their originality came out, and it just ended up really beautiful. It was so good. And look at that. And even if we see the debates and newspapers or something about Indian fiction in English, whether we are right in adopting English or not, or since its language is a colonial ruler, and language used to subjugate us stems from this complete power English has had over India's middle class and metropolises since mid 19th century. The fact that the demand for English keeps growing is an example of the power of language, that power language can have over social and economic realities. Even if we look at right now, many parents, and including ourselves, we want our children to have a better English education, better English communicators, better English speaking. Even people say English communication, if you have better English communication, you can get a job in a great company. And communication in English is the main like main link or main key to open the bright door of wealth or something, happiness. So people are saying, and we are believing. And uh, not only British colonized, but also the language itself, English colonized our minds. It is actually never ending debate. Some people, they say, of course, this also has some positive sides, like they question, people actually those who are writing poetry or novels or something, using their language, they question the colonial domination. And next one, they created a kind of a sense of history in English. The next one created an intellectual tradition in English language using the same argumentative styles. And also see, the first one actually people they got the idea, like uh, human rights, equality, and modernity to have the native elites. And next one, a sense of national identity. First became actually like a human rights when people got to know about their human rights, equality, modernity, nationalism, and all these ideas. When they got them, that made the elite class or the people who knew English at that time, that made them write the things or advocate their ideas against British. But whereas another one, those who got the idea of nationalism and our identity issue, those people actually they started fighting for freedom. Two things with English, people got certain ideas of human rights, equality. Those people actually became writers and proposed their ideas and advocated them. And next one, those who got the sense of nationalism, they fought for freedom or something, right? This is actually first unit. And if anything else, please, somebody please add up. If anybody has any doubts, also you can ask. I'll try to clarify. If not, we'll wait for the person who is actually going to take our class, right? Any doubts? Can you hear me? Somebody sent yes, but not properly.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir, we can hear.
yes, of course we can.
Yes, okay.
Yes,
This is
sir. No
first
doubt.
unit.
No doubt.
This is first unit actually. Second unit, early Indian prose in English. Somebody else please take the initiation and then we can have it. Look at that ninth unit, actually, early 20th century poetry, Sarojini Naidu. I know a little bit about Sarojini Naidu so that I can try to say little about it. Um, See, look at that introduction objective. This unit introduces you to page number 58. This unit introduces you to a major early 20th century poet in English, Sarojini Naidu, often called the Nightingale of India. She used to be, and not she used to be, she is fondly called as the Nightingale of India even today. And it was initially called by Mahatma Gandhi, the Nightingale of India, Bharata Kokila in Telugu, and it was thus it was continued. In the previous units, probably you must have looked at the work of Torudat, Henry Dorozio, and Aurobindo, Sir Aurobindo. By this time, it was clear that Indian poets were quite comfortable with the English language and could compose verse easily in it. The first generation of poets like Torudat or Henry Dorozio used English patterns and forms, like the sonnet, for example, to compose. But whereas Aurobindo enabled the evolution of Indian poetry by using Indian myths and legends, such as the story of Satyavan and Savitri, leading to an Indianization of the language and in the form. I think morning Tirupati sir explained the same thing, just like this. Sarojini Naidu, who was born on in 1879, she also worked as a governor to Uttar Pradesh, I think, if I remember right. Retained the romantic style adopted by Torudat and Derozio. Now, I can say very clearly that she was influenced by Tennyson and Shelley. She exhibits influences from several major English poets, Shelley and Tennyson in particular. Tennyson, yes. She exhibits Naidu's poetry can be read mainly for her Indianness, I told you just a moment ago, in dealing with landscapes, natures, and themes. As a romantic who deals with love, life, and death in moving, sentimental lyrics, and a poet of nationalist was probably these 3 points are very important if we underline for examination as an introduction. Like point one, Indianness in dealing with landscape, nature, and themes. As a romantic who deals with love, life, and death in moving, sentimental lyrics, and a poet of nationalist was three things. She talked about India and its landscapes, natures, themes. And I told you actually, she just showed the world and the West. They also, England, it appreciated a lot when she published a book in 1912 in England, and everybody she received such a beautiful criticism from a newspaper. I don't remember in which newspaper it was printed the criticism, but it has given a beautiful review to Sarojini Naidu about the landscapes when she explained all these things. Right? Look at 9.2. Sarojini Naidu's Indian landscape. Naidu's achievement was to use everyday sights and sounds, familiar objects and events, and convert them into symbols and poetic subjects. Her poetry is clearly romantic because she works with everyday life and subjects. We knew what is romantic with our first year uh, things that we learned last year. She was clearly romantic because she is dealing with everyday situations, not about mighty heroes or heroic tales or something. Everyday issues, everyday life, a natural one, and converting these everyday subjects into symbols for something larger, even if it is right next to you. When after reading Sarojini Naidu's poetry, and is this what she explained, then you start perceiving the beauty of it. She has such a beautiful eye to see the things around her and explain such a beautiful hand to put them into a very beautiful idea or a wonderful image, or as a wonderful narrative, and give out to us. She uses nature, page number 59 points, and these points also probably important for a poetic introduction during examination point of view. uses nature and landscape to convey ideas, aligns natural settings and events to deeper emotions, has a romantic idealization of death, nature, scenery, is interested in her sentimental responses to settings rather than the settings themselves, right? Thus, there is no great sense of tragedy or epic because Naidu sees everyday life as a heroic and worth writing about. This is the beauty of it. Naidu is a poet who celebrates the Indian landscape and its features. There is a fair amount of love poetry as well, and poems imbued with the nationalist spirit as well. She was, after all, writing at the height of the freedom struggle. She wanted to showcase, probably, to the whole world that this is India. Look at that. It was not the India that you have seen in Macaulay's Minute, that the whole literature of India is not even equal to the single shelf of any library in England. No, she wanted to showcase the people to the world that this is India. And the Indian landscape is the subject of village song. The palanquin bearers, we have actually a poem down over here. Palanquin bearers, Pallaki, palanquin bearers, the people who carry that palanquin bearers. Bangle sellers, I told you actually just a moment ago. Bangle sellers, Orvi Hoba. It was a poem in our 10th class textbook. That snake charmers and
Indian
others.
viewers.
Ma'am, please.
Yes, Indian viewers.
Indian weavers. And in poems like Vasanta Panchami and other, she invokes Indian festivals, gods, and legends. Her images actually include a variety of Indian scenes. Reading Sarojini Naidu poetry, you can just bring all those things in front of your eyes. Such a beautiful imagery she uses in her poetry. And flowers and trees, champa, sirisha seasons, flower and tree seasons, myths and local stories are locality poems set in and around Hyderabad city in the bazaars of Hyderabad. If you read that poem in the bazaars of Hyderabad, you can see what are actually sold in the bazaars of Hyderabad in those days, how vibrant they are, colorful they are, and how the people are actually moving around in marketplaces, especially when the market is put up. It was full of images. Next, Rajput villages in the north, and she married to some Chattopadhyaya. Sorry, some Naidu. She was actually Chattopadhyaya's daughter, who came from a Bengali family. Her brother was also is also a poet, Harindranath Chattopadhyaya. If I am wrong or something, please correct me. And her father was a principal, Nizam's College principal, which is actually right now Nizam's College, and earlier it was actually Hyderabad College. The name was changed into Hyderabad College. Her mother is actually, she was a homemaker and also a poet who used to write poems in Bengali. Her brother is also an advocate of, he was a poet, like a kind of, just like Sarojini Naidu. She was put in jail for more than 21 months, I think, during Quit India movement. And of course, she did not stop writing even at that time about India or anything about India. Take, for example, her most famous poems, Palanquin Bearers. In this poem, Naidu uses a commonplace object and an everyday sight to compose an extraordinary poem. Lightly, oh lightly, we bear her along. She sways like a flower in the wind of our song. She skims like a bird on the foam of a stream. She floats like a love from the lips of a dream. Gaily, oh gaily, we glide and we swing. We bear her along like a pearl on a string. Softly, oh softly, we bear her along. She hangs like a star in the dew of our song. She springs like a beam on the brow of a tide. She falls like a tear from the eyes of a bride. Lightly, oh lightly, we glide and we sing. We bear her along like a pearl on a string. See how beautifully the rhythm of the poem itself, most of the poems are like lyrics written by Sarojini Naidu. If I remember right, there is a poem um, written by Sarojini Naidu about fishermen, I think, calling fishermen. I don't remember title of it. But rise, brothers, rise, the awakening skies. Pray to the morning light. The wind lies asleep in the arms of the dawn, like a child that is cried all night. So that was actually, those were the lines, exact lines written by Sarojini Naidu. But if we just apply a little tune to that, it just looks so beautiful. Even this is actually extremely rhythmatic. Looking at the heartbeat of it lightly or lightly, lightly or lightly. Check your heartbeat. We bear her along. She sways like a flower. Yeah, please. She sways like a flower in the wind of a song. She skims like a bird on the foam of a stream. She floats like a laugh from the lips of a dream. See that the palanquin bearers are carrying a bride along. The images she uses are very cleverly arranged to emphasize. First one, the joy the bearers get in carrying her. They are carrying, when somebody is carrying something on their shoulders, they have to feel a burden, that weight of it. But whereas these palanquin bearers, they are extremely joyful, they are expressing their joy in carrying her, and this joy makes their burden negligible. They are carrying, which is actually extremely important. So that joy actually make that weight completely negligible. Notice all the images of are of lightness and flight. The flower spreads its fragrance as it is carried through the wind. The bird floats on the foam of the stream, and laugh bursts out from lips. The bearers are happy to carry her and do not feel her weight, just like everything light. Just this is also so light as every other thing. Beautiful similes are used down over here, and wonderful imagery, and coromandel fishes. Yes, somebody sent right. Coromandel fishes, right. The other poem that we had, actually, it was coromandel fishes, right. The bride's emotions seem to vary between great ecstasy and sorrow. See that as she is getting married to somebody, she is extremely happy, extremely elated, ecstatic, but at the same time she is expressing a sorrow, uh, imaged as a tear. That tear, see that looking at, she falls like a tear. She falls like a tear from the eyes of a bride. The ecstasy that is captured in the images like a flower and bird and laugh. Naidu's poems, make sentiment and emotion part of movements images. But what is significant is that she also makes the entire poem a poem about temporality, that is time and its passing. Every single image is of momentary, of joy and sight, of temporariness and movement. The pearl dances on a string, tears move down the eyes, beams move on the ship, dew vaporizes, stars disappear, fragrance of flowers lost in the wind. The poem cleverly uses nature imagery that captures the temporariness of all joy and human emotion. See that? She is not only giving us beautiful images through the poem, she is also giving us wonderful human emotion, and which is suggesting that everything is temporary. In Bangle Sellers, look at that. Next poem, she uses the small traveling traders as her subject. Bangle sellers, uh, not only just sell ornaments, they sell values, they sell beliefs, they sell faith. Thus, the sellers sing and merits and appropriateness of each colored bangle. They say about which color bangle to which color and for which thing, for whom we are giving this color bangle. Some are meet for a maiden's race. This is not the beginning of it. Bangle sellers who are we who bear our shiny so and so or some to the temple fair. I think this is the beginning of the poem, if I remember right, from our 10th class textbook, long ago, 90s. Some are made for a maiden's race, and see, some bangles are for maiden's race. The unmarried woman, silver and blue as the mountain mist. How are they? Silver and blue as the mountain mist. They are, no, they are silver and blue as the mountain mist. See that? How the mountain mist appears just like that. That color we are giving to maiden's race. Some are like fields of sunlit corn, made for the bride on her bridal morn. Some like the flame of her marriage fire, or rich with the hue of her heart's desire. Beautiful emotion, this one. Beautifully put up, this one. Tinkling, luminous, tender, and clear, like her bridal laughter and bridal tear. Some are purple and gold fleckered gray, for she who has journeyed through midlife midway, whose hands have cherished, whose love has blessed and cradled fair sons on her faithful breast, and serves her whole household in fruitful pride, and worship the gods at her husband's side. There are actually various stages of women life. It was given, look at this, Naidu is trace a woman's life story from a maiden ready for her marriage to middle-aged wife and a mother. The bangles become symbolic of this woman's journey across years, roles as a daughter, as a bride, as a wife, as a mother. The bangle sellers are therefore not simply bangle sellers. They offer the appropriate bangle to women to reinforce what they must do at the appropriate stage or age of their lives. That is, the bangle seller represent a social norm, a value system that through bangles and suggest appropriate roles for the women buyers of bangles. In other words, we can treat bangles as a method of socialization. Just as women are trained to dress appropriately depending on their age and status, whether it married women, unmarried maidens, bangles or method of socializing them, introducing them to social norms and ways of thinking. Bangle is a symbol of women's role and social status. In village song, another one we have a village song. Naidu tracks the figure of a woman carrying a pitcher of water. A pitcher of water. A woman, she started describing again a small, it's a common sight in rural India. Even till 20 years ago, people used to carry, even in from villages, they used to draw some water which is potable water from wells. Certain wells are available in villages. Only from that wells they can fetch that potable water. She links the progress of a maiden with the emotions experienced by those waiting for her at home. Naidu's nature poems reveal an eye for beauty and landscape. In her famous Spring, she undertakes a journey through the many colors of nature in this season of growth and fertility. Young leaves grow green on banyan twigs and red on peepal tree. Poppies squander their fragile gold in the silvery aloe brake, and all the vivid air thrills with butterfly wings in the wild rose hedge and the luminous blue of hills. This kind of nature description reminds us immediately not only of Wordsworth and romantic, but also the earlier of English poets like William Cowper and William Collins. I don't know about this. Naidu then explains the beauty of spring through a very Indian link by speaking of the god Krishna and his music. Investing nature with a mystic sense was also a romantic trait, and Naidu does the same. And 9.3, romanticism and lyrical poetry. You see that, look at that second paragraph, last 61. Naidu concludes the volume, The Bird of Time. This was actually published, this book, The Bird of Time, it was published in 1912, if I remember right, with a poem appropriately titled Farewell, where she writes, wild birds with eager wings outspread to seek an alien sky, sweet comrades of lyric spring, my little songs goodbye. Next, her love poetry is also romantic in the sense she sees love as a triumphing over all strife. And she was actually, it was, her marriage was an intercaste marriage in those days. Um, she is from Bengali, and this man is Naidu. I don't remember exactly complete name of her husband, but he was a physician, uh, some Naidu, and later she became Sarojini Naidu. She is from a Chattopadhyaya
Govinda
family.
Raju. Yes,
Govindarajulu
sir.
Naidu,
Govinda.
correct. Govindarajulu Naidu. He was a physician, and it was an intercaste marriage, as both families agreed in those days. They did not have to undergo uh, such a strife or something. It was peaceful and beautiful. She also wrote some love poetry, and which is romantic in sense. She sees love as a triumph over all strife. An Indian love song is divided between the views of the woman and the man. It is a courtship poem where the man pleads with the woman. Oh, fine. Right. Next, nationalism poetry. And we have several poems down there. You can read. And the poem recalls, poetic invocations to the motherland. She paid her respect to the motherland by writing even like there some patriotic poems to India in the book, to India. Rise, mother, rise, regenerate from thy gloom, and like the bride high mated with the spears, beget new glories for thine ageless womb. Naidu images India as a mother, thus feminizing it. Nature and the country have been regularly portrayed as women in cultures across the world. Naidu sees India as at once young and old. India is a new bride and an ageless womb. Like Derozio, Naidu sees India as a shackled and restricted. The nations uh, that in fettered darkness weep. She calls upon the motherland to come to aid of her children. Mother, O mother, wherefore dost do sleep? She see that usages of dost, do, ye, and all these actually archaic usage of English language. When she was writing her poetry, it was clearly mentioned at the beginning of it. She was inspired from, especially in Tennyson, Victorian trend poet. Victorian trend poet, and these expressions are, they were quite alive. And she was, as she was inspired by all these things, Victorian poets, especially like Tennyson, she started writing even all these things like old archaic things, dost, do. Dost is actually do means actually you, what we have right now. Naidu sees independence not as a new condition, but a return to an old status. Next one. And thus nationalism means a return to pre-colonial past, in which Naidu romanticizes as being ideal and glorious. In The Gift of India, this is actually very beautiful poem. Very beautiful poem. Actually, during World War time, India gave several of its soldiers to British, right? And it has given, it's the gift of India is none other than the sons of India, the soldiers. They have flung to the east and the west priceless treasures torn from my breast, and yielded the sons of my stricken womb to the drums beat of the duty, the sabers of doom. It was actually, while reading this poem, especially the real Indian, not only to be Indian, you don't have to be Indian to just shed some tears while reading this poem. It is like, depicting the land India as a mother, and all of us are that mother's children. It was the India, Mother India is actually expressing her sorrow. What should I give you? What can I give you more? I have already given priceless treasures torn from my breast. I have already given my sons, yielded the sons of my stricken womb to the drums beat of duty, to the war, sabers of doom. I have sent them to doom, to the sabers of doom. Right? The last two lines here are particularly significant. For Naidu is speaking about the Indian soldiers who fought for the British and gave up their lives, even though they had nothing to gain from it. Nothing. She presents an India that mourns its losses. Can ye measure? Can ye even that plural ye pluralistic usage of archaic? Do ye do means a singular usage. Ye actually pluralistic usage archaic. Can ye measure? Can you measure the grief of the tears I weep, or compass of woe of the watch what I keep? That I keep. See that she is actually expressing her sorrow. uh, the problem with this poem is rather than the call for independence, Naidu seeks recognition for India's service from the British. When the terror and the tumult of hate shall cease, and life be refashioned on anvils of peace, and your love shall offer memorial thanks to the comrades who fought on the dauntless ranks, and you honor the deeds of the dauntless ones. Remember the blood of my martyred sons. While the poem is nationalist in its overall stance, this nationalism is significantly mixed with a plea to the British to leave us, to just let us live. You have already taken several of our sons to the doom. Please leave us. This is actually about Sarojini Naidu, Unit 9. I think this is it for today. Any doubts? Please.
Nice explanation, sir.
Dear Mr. or Miss Host, please inform the people that we are not just here for fun. Please ask the facilitators to come down over here and give us some lessons. somebody put up a message like it was what would be better in the examination point of view. And I think I'm not the right person to give examination point of view because last time I think I wrote really well with literary criticism, but I got very less marks when I wrote on my own. Facilitators will come up and they may give us some tips. I'm also waiting for them.
Even I also more said literature, but I got less marks.
It is true with everybody.
I also written own, but I got less. So Ramu sir, shall we write again the exams for improvement, sir? Do you know any idea about that?
I don't think there would be a chance to write improvement. Probably there may be a chance of supplementary. I don't know about these things. There are certain groups in which certain chatting going on. People were suggesting that there would be supplementary examination. I don't have any idea about it.
Okay.